What's up, guys? It is Paul, the MMA Shark, coming at you with a UFC 281 recap. Of course, before the recap and the betting analysts and how we did last night, I do want to send a sincere condolence to the family of Anthony Rumble Johnson. Anthony Rumble Johnson, an absolute icon in the UFC, and then into Bellator, recently involved with bare knuckle boxing. One of the most dangerous, prolific strikers of all time, and a kind-hearted man. You know, when he lost to DC, in that speech, he said he was so sympathetic, and he thought he let his mom down, who was ailing health at the time, and he was a true gentleman, and he's that fighter that no one had anything ever bad to say about outside of the cage. So, truly a huge loss to the mixed martial arts community. Rest in peace, Anthony Rumble Johnson. Just a true tragedy. 38 years old. The real cause of death was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, organ failure due to having that cancer. So very sad, very grim. Hearing that news today, absolutely devastating. So again, rest in peace, Anthony Rumble Johnson. You'll never be forgotten, and the amount of fans he's had in mixed martial arts is absolutely incredible, and it's a terrible loss. So want to talk about UFC 281. Did I have a winning night or did I have a losing night? What do you guys think? We had a winning night. Another pay-per-view, another cash. So first of all, if you watched my preview video that I put a lot of time and effort into, I gave out 2 free plays on it. One was Karolina Kowalkiewicz, cash it. 2, Andre Petroski, cash it. If you're watching the preview videos for some free plays, great. If you're not ready to sign up for the full system, let me know you're watching it. Drop a comment, subscribe to the channel. There's still ways to support me outside of buying a subscription to the MMA Shark. But the only way to make the profits that I've been producing would be signing up for the MMA Shark. The link's right there. If I duck down, you can see it. www.themmashark.com. I have been on a complete tear, over 420 units year to date, and I have 4 cards ahead this week. 4 cards I'm capping this week. So with that said, let's talk about the results from last night's card. And these are the exact plays that were sent out to my subscribers. So we will go one by one. I'll give a little bit of analysis on it. I don't want a long video here. I don't want to bore anyone here. But at the same token, I talk when I win, I talk when I lose. Fight 1, my main play was for it to not go the distance. It cashed very easily. I did have a small side bet on Nikolai Negumereanu. It was only 1 unit. It didn't hurt when he lost that fight because, again, the main play was for that fight not to go the distance. It ended in the first round. I also tied no distance in that fight into a parlay for later on in the night. Fight 2, Julio Arce versus Montel Jackson. This was easy as don't overthink this fight. It was simple. It was always Montel Jackson, and it was to win by decision. So we had 2 units on Montel Jackson to win. He won the fight. And we had 1 unit on Montel Jackson to win by decision at plus 150. That cashed very easily. There was never a hiccup on that at all. We go to fight 3, and this is where things got really interesting. I loved Mike Trizano in this spot. He did miss weight, but he looked absolutely fine. But the crazy thing is, not only did I love Mike Trizano in this spot, I loved Mike Trizano to get the win by knockout. And that was plus 1,000, and I released that play. You can see right here exactly how I release it to my subscribers. Mike Trizano plus 150, risk 1.5 units. Mike Trizano by TKO KO plus 1,000, risk 0.5 unit to win 5 units. Leveled him, knocked him out in the first round. That's a big win. That set the pace for the night. So cruising through fights 1, 2, and 3, profit secured on all 3. We go to fight 4. If you watched my preview video, I told you Karolina Kowalkiewicz was the play. Even money, went 2.5 units on her, cashed it. I also put her in a parlay, which we will discuss later. Fight 5, my first bad read of the night. And like I said, I'll tell you when I win, I'll tell you when I lose. I thought that Azaitar had so much more to bring to that cage when he took on the steamroller Matt Frevola. I knew he had the long layoff, but he stayed very active in that long layoff, doing a lot of grappling tournaments, a lot of kickboxing, a lot of striking competition, and, he just didn't have an answer for a steamroller. He looked so out of range in that fight, and I can officially put a brown paper bag on my head, dropped 4.8 units on Azaitar, and lost. Not the end of the world, I promise. We move on to fight 6. If you watched my preview video, I told you it was a free play on Andre Petroski. He won the first round. It was very close. Second round, I'm gonna say Turman got the better of him and won. So, 1-1 going to the third round. Petroski dropped down to a minus 105 favorite going to the third round. Personally, I put more money on Petroski going to the third round. Wellington Turman was more gassed than he looked. Knowing Petroski as well as I do, he was saving his gas tank in that fight, and he just took over in round 3. In the blink of an eye, he was minus 17,500, and he did win the fight by decision. Should he have gotten the finish, we would have picked up an extra unit, but, max play, Andre Petroski, absolute cash. Molly McCann, Aaron Blanchfield, my play on this fight was nothing. There was no value anywhere to be found on this fight. Basically, Vegas crushed it on this fight. The line stayed steady at plus 300, plus 320 for Molly McCann. Everyone and their mother and their sister and their mailman was betting on Molly McCann. Molly had a puncher's chance in this fight. I would have loved to see her win, but the only way to find value would have been Blanchfield inside distance or by decision. And even there, they were both minus money. So, if I don't love it, I'm not forcing it. So that was a complete pass for me on the fight card. Not a big deal. There was still 8 huge fights ahead. Here's where I hit a down spot on the card. Back-to-back fights where we lost money on. And it's going to happen, but watch what happened after it. Fight 8, Reyes versus Spann. Reyes has always been a picky striker. Picks his strikes, not always going to finish in the first round, not immediately going for the finish. Ryan Spann has very good submissions and some aggressive striking. I did not think he had the striking to knock out Dominic Reyes, but clearly Yuri Prohaska ruined Reyes for life. He needs to retire. I had Reyes to win the fight, and I had under a round and a half. The only fight in the night on the card that I lost both ends of, not a big deal. Over 1.5, I had a 2-unit risk, and I had Reyes for 2 units. So, we dropped 4 units there. Not the end of the world. The feature prelim, another bad read. 3-4 bad reads out of 14 cards, I'll take it all day. I did go with Brad Riddell, and I could kick myself for going with Brad Riddell. Hanato Moicano, I love Hanato Moicano, but just something didn't seem right with him. On the scale, going from 170 after a pummeling he took, you'd think Brad Riddell training at City Kickboxing was going to bring a lot more to the table, and he didn't. A minute into that fight, I knew the end was near, and I was right. Bad read. We left the prelims. I think we were up somewhere around 4 units after the prelims and some open parlays, so nothing spectacular. The main card, I shined. Fight 1. I had Dan Hooker, 3 units to win the fight. Claudio Puelles sucks. If a fighter's dumb enough to let him do a rolling knee bar in the UFC, like Clay Guida was, that fighter shouldn't be in the UFC. And, Dan Hooker has fought such a higher level of competition. This was an easy fight. This was 3 wins in 1 fight. This was a complete cash 'em all. I had Dan Hooker minus 145 for 3 units. I had Dan Hooker by TKO or KO plus 200 for a unit. And I had under 2.5 rounds minus 145 as a max play. He got the body shot KO in the second round. Huge, huge win there. Fight 2, I went with Chris Gutierrez, and I went with Chris Gutierrez to win by knockout at plus 180. Frankie Edgar, you are an absolute icon, one of the best to ever do it. The hours on end of octagon time you have. You're 41 years old. It's the end of the road, but, he could still be valuable in this sport training. One of my favorite, most respected fighters ever. I didn't see a scenario where Gutierrez didn't knock him out, so it was another plus money win at plus 180. Fight 4, main play, was the fight not to go to the distance to cash a 3-unit parlay. Side play, which was a straight play, I went with Michael Chandler to win the fight. You know, a fight that close, give me plus 195, I'm taking it 8 out of 10 times, and I'm cashing it 7 out of 10 times. Chandler really had him hurt in the first, and he did the level change. I personally didn't think the level change was a bad idea, but in the grand scheme of things, it was. You know, Chandler did some dirty things in that fight, you know, the fish hooking, etc. I was just thrilled that Dustin got the submission win, because if Dustin wins by decision, I'm staring at not a split, but a -6. So that not going the distance, we did just fine with. We move on to the co-main event, and this is a play that I released earlier in the week. It's a play I freaking loved. We got it at plus money because I put it out early enough, and it was Zhang to get the finish, any finish, inside distance at plus 100. The absolute max I will go on a prop is 5 units, and I did it. Zhang to win inside the distance. It was a 5-unit risk. It won us 5 units. We found ourselves up 14.5 units going into the main event. I had 7 units of parlays built up from the night. I had Petroski with Israel Adesanya. I had Karolina Kowalkiewicz with Israel Adesanya. I had Montel Jackson with Israel Adesanya. So my system doesn't fail because I'm smart. I use my head. Up 14 units. If Israel Adesanya won the fight, we can gain another 10 units because all the parlays were plus money. We had one with Gutierrez and Zhang too at plus 160. So up 14.5 units. If the parlay hits, we gain 10 units. If it doesn't hit, we lose 7 units. So the guaranteed 7-unit night was there. I figured the only way Israel Adesanya was losing this fight would be by knockout. So I put out a play under 4.5 rounds, and I risked, at plus 100, even money, I risked 4 units on it. Yes, Adesanya gets KO'd at 2 minutes in the 5th round. So we lose a total of 3 units on the main event. Taking the night to plus 11 units, I will take that all day long on a pay-per-view. Should Adesanya have gotten finished between the 2.5 to 5 minute mark in the 5th round, it still would have been a profitable night, but it wouldn't have been a double-digit night. If Adesanya hung on and got the decision win, it would have been a 20-unit night. Again, I'm not being greedy. I'll take these wins. I'm piling them up, win after win after win after win. You know, we're 4 cards into November, and I'm 4-0. We had an LFA winning card, a Cage Warriors winning card, and now back-to-back UFC winning cards. UFC has been 83.7% this year. Think of that. I'm winning 8.3 out of 10 UFC cards. Those are numbers you want to follow. Those are numbers you want to subscribe to. Start cashing tickets. www.themmashark.com. 4 events this week. We have an Invicta card on UFC Fight Pass Saturday night. It's their strawweight title tournament. Actually, some really good matchups on the card. Friday night, we have Bellator at 6 p.m., 15 fights on the card. Next Saturday, 1 p.m. start, UFC, Derek Lewis versus Sergey Spivak. And then next Sunday, a rare Sunday MMA. One of Cage Warriors' biggest cards of the year is next Sunday at 4 o'clock. I'll be capping all 4. I'll have some preview videos on here with free plays. Again, subscribe to this channel. My free plays are money. If you're not ready to sign up just yet, I get it, but at least support me by liking and commenting. Let me know if I'm talking to anyone out here that's actually taking my free plays. Give me some feedback on it. A lot of big cards left this year. UFC, Bellator are already lining up the cards for January and February and March. We don't stop. There's no off season. And I want you to remember, I'm not just selling picks. I'm selling a system that is long-term profitability. Year after year, the people that have been with me since day one, week after week, month after month, year after year, we're cashing, we're increasing bankroll, we're making money. 4 cards this week. I'll be looking forward to talking to you guys soon. And let's hope to get to 8-0 on the month. Let's get it, guys.